Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And things are, they're really starting to hit the wall regarding the Microsoft Activision Blizzard buyout. Sony has played a huge part, as some of you all know, in throwing a wrench into this acquisition, and they've rallied regulators with a lot of accusations. But now, as the primary complainant, they have been served with a subpoena. We've talked about this before. But there is a problem now, because Sony is no longer being cooperative even with the FTC. Might be a little bit of surprise there, but we'll get into that today and why they might be doing some of this. And then also, yes, there's been some breaking news for Nintendo today, and in fact, let's go ahead and get the video started off with that, because I am very happy to say that the Nintendo Direct rumors were indeed correct after all. Considering yesterday's poll results, I know some of you all were skeptical of this, but they did make it official today. A Nintendo Direct is now set for tomorrow on February 8th, which is actually a little bit sooner than some expected, and it will go live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. They noted it'll be roughly 40 minutes long, mostly focusing on games that'll release within the first half of 2023. Now, I will try to cover this tomorrow. I might have to make two separate videos. We'll kind of see how tomorrow shapes up and everything, but there you have it. I mean, if you're a Nintendo fan, this is looking to be a must-watch showcase. Being 40 minutes long, there will be a lot of announcements here. This is not going to be one of your small directs. There's going to be several announcements here, including some surprises. But also, of course, this will probably include a lengthy gameplay reveal of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That alone, I think, will very much make this showcase worth it for a lot of fans out there. But there's also a few other noteworthy games that we've consistently heard about that could, also maybe pop up here. There's been a lot of listings for Advance Wars Reboot Camp as of recent, so I think that that's pretty much a given here. I'd be surprised if those two games, being Zelda and Advance Wars, weren't here. But even beyond that, there's Hollow Knight Silksong. According to the Xbox Bethesda showcase last year, Silksong will release within the first half of 2023. So with this game having a strong affinity to Nintendo, I think that this could finally, yes, finally, be the showcase where they announce its release date. Also, Sea of Stars. This is also another one that kind of sticks out to me because Nintendo has hyped up this game quite a bit in previous showcases, and it's honestly pretty easy to see why. First off, this game is absolutely beautiful. That's easy to see. But also, it's inspired by Chrono Trigger, and it's developed by the same studio that worked on The Messenger. So Sea of Stars, yeah, it looks like it has a lot of potential, and we could maybe get a release date for that one tomorrow. There's also those Metroid Prime remake rumors still looming. I know some people have kind of lost faith that this game actually exists, but I have a hard time believing that it doesn't exist. I mean, sure, I'm a Metroid fan and everything, so maybe I'm biased in essence. I don't want to believe it doesn't exist. But for me, the way I kind of look at this situation, I just feel like there's several trustworthy sources pointing to the exact same thing. And then on top of that, it just makes too much sense from a business perspective. I mean, even despite the leaks that we've heard about, to me, I think it'd be more surprising if Nintendo doesn't release the original Metroid Prime games before Metroid Prime 4, which is going to be a big game for them. Too many people missed out in the series previously, and it would be a good idea to release these games ahead of the fourth installment. That way they can kind of build up hype and everything. I mean, there's just too big of a gap between these releases. I mean, if you kind of think about it, a lot of people that have the Nintendo Switch now wasn't even born when the original trilogy released. I mean, yeah, that makes me feel old and everything, but nonetheless, I think that would make a lot of sense. Now, another game that could maybe show up here is Pikmin 4. We do already know that this game exists, and supposedly it will be releasing in 2023. And even if it's not necessarily in the first half of the year, I could see them maybe showing some gameplay here. Of course, there could also be some other surprise announcements. I mean, this is a 40-minute long event after all, and we have heard about some GameCube remasters like F-Zero GX as an example, but give me your predictions, hopes, and desires in the comments below. Now, we're also hearing about the next quote-unquote annual premium Call of Duty release, which will reportedly come later this year. This is coming directly from Activision during a financial call, though as to what this actually means is currently up in question. Now, the reason for that is because last year, Jason Schreier posted a big report stating that the next mainline Call of Duty game will not release in 2023, making it the first mainline Call of Duty to miss an annual release in over a decade. However, what's being claimed is that Sledgehammer will continue Modern Warfare 2 with premium DLCs. Do keep in mind that Infinity Ward did do the first part of Modern Warfare 2. So you have all that going on, but right now it just kind of seems like with Activision's announcement, there's some confusion as to what this premium annual release actually is. If it is true that it is DLC or a continuation of Modern Warfare 2, are they going to try and charge an additional $60 to $70? That seems to be where some of the confusion lies right now. Their wording of it being a premium annual release does seem to suggest that, but I guess we'll see later this year. At the very least, they did confirm here that there will be some form of new premium Call of Duty content in 2023. Now, speaking of Activision, we might as well just go and talk about the elephant in the room here, being about the acquisition and Sony's new uncooperative approach. So, what's happening here is that last month, Microsoft served Sony with a subpoena. Basically, Sony's made a lot of complaints. They've made all of these accusations that they can't compete with the likes of Activision Blizzard and Call of Duty if Microsoft acquires them. They've really tried to paint themselves in this vulnerable light to these regulators and have expressed concern about Call of Duty exclusivity and content parity. We'll come back to that in just a moment, but Microsoft said, okay, if any of this is true, provide us with your internal documents and prove it in court. As we talked about yesterday, what Microsoft is specifically looking for here is that they're requesting Sony to provide 11 years of data, which includes exclusive agreements that Sony has signed with third-party companies. Now, the reason that this is important is because Sony is complaining about the potential exclusivity that Xbox could get if they were to acquire Activision Blizzard. So what Microsoft is trying to do here is they're pointing out the hypocrisy. They want to put PlayStation's business practices on full display and show the court what they have to deal with. They want to expose Sony's aggressive approach to exclusivity and expose how Sony has hurt the Xbox business despite PlayStation being a much more dominant brand historically. This should especially show during the Xbox One generation, which is exactly why Microsoft wants the data all the way back to 2012. That is not an accidental date that they chose. They want to cover the entirety of last generation and then go into the PlayStation 5 generation, where Sony seems to have ramped up their approach even more so with aggressive exclusive contracts. So yes, if Sony is forced to reveal this data, that would be a terrible look for them considering their arguments against this acquisition. I mean, they're already the market leader by far. That doesn't play well for them. And they still, with all that, they are looking to hurt the Xbox brand by signing these exclusive deals. And in some cases, I mean, Sony just looks to block games from releasing on things like Xbox Game Pass. That doesn't even improve anything for PlayStation consumers. It's just flat out looking to hurt Xbox. That all could be revealed with this data. And that's also why now Sony is no longer being cooperative. Previously, they had asked for several extensions, but now they are moving to quash this subpoena. This was reported by False Patents, and let's just go ahead and get to the nitty-gritty here. They said this: Sony is officially fighting Microsoft's subpoena in FTC's Activision Blizzard merger case. Public filing confirms PlayStation maker brought motion to quash on Friday. They then go on to say there are only two possible reasons for which Sony abandoned its motion for leave to file a reply and brought a motion to quash right away. ALJ Chappelle may have told Sony's counsel informally that the motion was going to be denied because a fourth extension is one too many. Sony may have tried to reach ALJ Chappelle's office on Friday, couldn't find out what was going to happen, and then brought its motion to quash because it was in the absence of an extension, running out of time. Either way, it shows that Microsoft was right to oppose Sony's fourth motion for an extension of time. If Sony had reasonably requested more time, the judge would simply have granted Sony's motion on Friday. Sony is not just fighting Microsoft's subpoena. It's surprising, if not shocking, that Sony is also unwilling to comply with the FTC's own subpoena. First, they asked the FTC to bring this case like no one else did. Then they don't want to answer questions. It's possible that ALJ Chappelle also found that behavior bewildering and that he had this in mind when he saw Sony's motion for a fourth extension of time. And that last part really is the big story here. After all of Sony's complaints, all of their accusations, now that they're being asked questions to prove their validity, Sony downright refuses to answer those questions. Now, why would that be? It might very well be because what we've been saying on the channel all along. This entire hoopla that they've caused has been disingenuous all along, and the data very much could prove that. I have no problems, absolutely no problems with PlayStation. I love my PlayStation 5 and everything, but it's not hard to see that a lot of the things that they've claimed comes off as extremely hypocritical. Their arguments often boil down to, we can do it, but it's not fair when Microsoft does. I mean, just think about it. One of Sony's leading arguments is the concern that Microsoft could lessen the PlayStation version of Call of Duty. They fear they won't have content parity. Now, keep in mind, Sony is already doing this. They have a signed agreement with Activision to make Call of Duty content exclusive to PlayStation. That's all you need to know right there. That shows you how hypocritical that they're being, and this goes so far beyond just Call of Duty. Even Hogwarts Legacy has exclusive content that other versions don't have. Yet on the opposite hand, they're complaining that Microsoft could theoretically do the same thing despite Microsoft already offering a 10-year contract ensuring that they won't do that. Do you see the issue here? Yeah, it's clear, it's evident, and the data will further back this up with all of their exclusive contracts over the last 11 years. I mean, we know about a lot of these like Final Fantasy, Silent Hill, Street Fighter, yada, 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 but I'm sure there's a lot more that we don't know about. With all that said, though, Sony's strategy of being uncooperative might actually have some merit to it. Now, the reason I say that is because I think that this data will be bad for Sony. It's going to paint them in a bad light very publicly, so it would be in their best interest not to show this information. More so, though, is that the bigger hurdle for Microsoft is the CMA, not the FTC. Now, we should hear from the CMA in the coming days, but they're the wild card here. Basically, if the CMA tries to block Microsoft, that could be it for this buyout. If the CMA approves it, though, then the FTC will lose their case, and the acquisition will then be approved. So in Sony's eyes, they might be thinking here, it's just better off not supporting the FTC and just see what happens with the CMA. Either way, though, we should get an update on that later this week, and of course, I will update you all then. In the meantime, though, let me know what you all think about all of this in the comments below. Now, before I go, we did also get an update for Midnight Suns. This is the Firaxis Marvel-based IP that released back in December of 2022, but unfortunately, it sounds like it didn't meet internal expectations. You can actually see here where Jason Schreier posted this. Some news, Marvel's Midnight Suns was a critical success, but a commercial flop. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick told me in an interview this afternoon that it's possible the release window wasn't perfect, but that he thinks that it could have a long tail like other Firaxis games. And that is one way to kind of look at it here. We actually also heard something very similar with Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, where Ubisoft essentially said the exact same thing. Now, I do believe that in both cases, these games will sell a lot of units in the long run. I do agree with that. The problem here, though, is that it won't necessarily be at their initial asking price of $60. I think a large portion will be sold for a discounted price instead. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think this is an example of these companies might need to consider having more budget-friendly options. Not every game necessarily needs to be that premium $60 to $70. I feel like these games could have performed a lot better right around $40 or so instead, but hey, maybe I'm out of bounds by saying that. It's just kind of my immediate reaction to all of this. I think because this was based on Marvel IP, though, maybe Take-Two had loftier expectations, but that's kind of the thing that we're seeing. Just because a game is based on a licensed IP, and even if they're of high quality, that doesn't always translate into a massive amount of success. I'm sure the genre is very much going to play into it, and just kind of the overall buzz that the community has. I know Spider-Man had a lot of success, and it looks like Hogwarts Legacy will see similar success as well, but there's also games like this and then Guardians of the Galaxy, which didn't exactly set the world on fire. Either way, though, Midnight Suns is still a good game, and hopefully in the future it'll bounce back, even if it didn't meet those internal expectations. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, now that reviews are rolling out, will you be picking up Hogwarts Legacy later this week? And I actually think this is the first time that I've ever seen this in the results, but we are looking at a direct tie here, with 42% of you saying yes, and then 42% of you said no. Now, on one side, This is also one of the highest results I've gotten in a poll for you all just saying, yes, you're gonna get this game. So this bodes well for Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, it's already pretty evident that this game is going to be massive, really for a few different reasons. One, it's been topping the charts for quite a while on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation as the best selling game. Now that is before the game has even launched, so that was already a good sign alone. On top of that, today, Hogwarts Legacy has actually been above 1 million viewers on Twitch streaming, which is actually incredible. Again, this is before the game is even released, so I mean, this is absolutely incredible numbers already. And yeah, this game is going to be massive. It's going to be one of the biggest releases this year, hands down. And now that the reviews are out, they are reviewing very well. It's gonna sell gangbusters. You know, the thing about Hogwarts Legacy is it really is that dream game for Harry Potter fans. I know I'm very much looking forward to playing this game later this week. It really is that game that is going to bring the Harry Potter universe to life, and that's very, very exciting for longtime fans. You know, but on top of that, the consistent story that's followed Hogwarts Legacy is some of the controversy, the quote-unquote boycotts. But I swear, every time a game gets boycotted, whether that be Pokemon, Bayonetta, or in this case, Hogwarts Legacy, it just seems like they have a ton of success after these boycotts. So all I can really say is, you all need to boycott more games. I mean, we need more success in the game industry, apparently. So, yeah. Anyways, Hogwarts Legacy is looking like it's going to be absolutely massive. And it's also exciting to know that it sounds like it's actually going to be a good game with those reviews and everything. So, yeah, bring on February 10th when we can finally play Hogwarts Legacy. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.